Hello everybody, welcome to another Dragon Ball card game deck profile. This time around I'm profiling my Gotenks list, which is a list that I have a lot of fun playing with, and it's a list that's very budget friendly because, you know, most of my channel is catered towards around budget players, so I want to make sure that I can bring decks for you guys to have fun with and not have to, like, break the bank and, you know, make you all cry. And this is definitely one of those decks where, like, this deck is just super fun, and the deck is actually pretty competent if you know what you're doing with the deck. There's a few things that you can do with this deck, which is pretty cool, but most of the deck just revolves around, like, using your leader along with Raging Energy Blast Gotenks to just, like, make a lot of plays in one turn and, like, just maximize your advantage as much as possible. Now, I know I've been absent for a while, even though I never really posted much on this channel and more on the Yugi channel, but I'm going to try to bring his channel back and make a few more videos, like, on leaders and stuff, and maybe even some gameplay, just because there's a lot of stuff that I want to mess around with, and there's also a lot of things for me to catch up with because I did miss out the last two sets. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my little coming back speech, but let's talk about this deck. So before I go into the deck profile, I'll give you guys a friendly reminder to, at the end of the video, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, as it shows me that I like what I'm doing, and you'll also want to keep up with my Dragon Ball content. But let's just jump into it. Now, on screen there is my list for Gotenks. Now, if you just want to have the list, take it, you know, mess around with it, change it. This is a pretty good skeleton in my opinion. There are a few wacky one-ofs that, like, they are for the most part temporary, so feel free to change them, but I think the core of the deck is pretty neat. And if you want to also stick around and listen to what I have to say, thank you so much, because I put a lot of effort into my explanations. So let's get started with the main focus of the deck, and that is our leader. And it's really what makes this deck work is the leader. So Son Goku's effect is that when he attacks, he untaps an energy, and for life you draw two, you flip him, and then when he attacks, you can draw a card and then untap two of your energy. So by untapping two energy with this Goku and then using Raging Energy Blast Gotenks, you untap another two energy. So you're just able to get like 4 energy back every turn for essentially free, and not only can you drop in Raging Energy Blast Gotenks, but you also get more pieces from your deck to hand, so like you deck thin, and you were able to find your combo pieces and like your main hitters of the deck much easier, because, you know, you're going to increase the chances of you drawing into them. This deck really revolves around the blue Gotenkses. I think that, like, the main cards that make this deck, like, work. Quick Thinking is just phenomenal. Like, this deck, not this deck, but this card helped this deck so much by just giving you a card that says draw 3, which is pretty crazy. But also the fact that it has a critical, which is really nuts. There's also Raging Energy Blast, which was a card from a few sets ago, and this card is really, like, got a lot of people interested in Gotenks, or like a mini Gotenks engine, just because this card is just super efficient and what it does. And then finally we also have the Ghost Rampage Gotenks. This is sort of like a final resort type of anime comeback type of card. No, it's not a typo. You can bounce up to 100 of your opponent's battle cards, which is pretty funny, just how over the top this card is. It could be a little bit better, but I think the card is pretty playable in my mind. And then we have the Psyched Up Gotenks, which is just the other card that, like, helps this deck push for damage, because this deck doesn't have, like, a lot of super strong heavy hitters. It's more just like you know, those like 3-4 drops that, like, put a lot of pressure every turn just by dropping them multiple times, and over the course of the game you will essentially just chip your opponent down. So you're not really trying to, like, OTK or burst your opponent, just trying to chip them down little by little, and that's what this deck does best. Anyway, so let's get started with, like, the generic support cards for the deck, just the cards that, like, you have enough space to put them in the deck and they just help the deck a ton, and that is Shenron, Figure of Majesty. This card's absolutely amazing. Every turn, as long as you have Sparking 5, you can just draw a card and then you use one of 3 really good effects. This card is phenomenal when you combine it with Gotenks or both the Ghost Rampage or the Psyched Up, because they have Double Strike, and then you can give something Double Strike Crit, which is really nice. And the other 2 effects are also really good, just bringing back a 2-drop from the drop area or untapping 2 energy. Both of those effects are just absolutely amazing. And we play 2 of them because even though this card's really good, you'll probably see at least 1 copy every game, and as long as you see the 1 copy, that's pretty good in my opinion. Then we have the 4 copies of Dimension Magic. This Negate is just absolutely nuts. It's a Negate along with Sensu Beam, and it's like a weird mix between with Coercion and Sensu Bean minus the buff, but you know, you just negate something and then you get 2 energies back, which is absolutely amazing, because it allows you to just combo with cards in your hand, especially the ones that like cost energy. You can combo with them for essentially free. And then you can also, when you have Sparking 5, this card is essentially free by just taking life, which does help you to self-awaken a little bit. Then we have 4 copies of Sensu Bean. I don't usually play Sensu Bean, but I feel like this deck kind of needs Sensu Bean. I think the card is like too good in this deck to not play it, and just because it has so much synergy with the whole like untapping 2 energy, allowing you to make more plays. And the card is just a blue staple in my opinion. Then we have the 4 copies of Keyrush Sun Goten. This card's just really solid. It's a 1-drop for 10 power. You can just, well, 10k, you can just like play it, swing with it, and then it bounces back to your hand, which is pretty neat. It doesn't really have like a search effect or like a draw effect, but just the ability to swing for 10k, and you know, that's really good because it contests mostly, just so you can start chipping at your opponent, getting them closer to death. The only new card that this deck got from the new set is Boo Boo Volley Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, as it's like a form of support, and I think that's fine just because you now have a searchable Gotenks card. If you play the red engine instead of the green engine, you can actually search a super combo, but just having a super combo that says Gotenks in its name helps this deck out a ton. And it's one of the better ones actually, because it's a Sparking 5 super combo, so this is gonna be live probably before before you have full life, which is pretty good. And just the 10k pump plus draw card is just generic for, you know, your super combos. 1 copy of Unyielding Spirit Trunks. Unfortunately, this card is a little bit too good, but I'm still glad we have the 1 copy of it because it has 10k power, which we have some 10k power Sun Gotenks to go along with it, and the card's just pretty solid as a whole. You know, you can use it for a few things, but it's just a nice little one of that. When you see it, it does increase your skill ceiling a little bit that turn. 4 copies of Keyrush Trunks. This card is pretty good. It's your Self-Awakener that also allows you to bounce a card in your opponent's hand. Bounce a card in your opponent's field to the hand, so that way you can get rid of any problematic cards and make way for your Gotenks to start dealing damage to your opponent. Definitely one of the better Trunkses in my opinion that we can play. Not as good as Unyielding Spirit Trunks, but definitely one of the better ones. 1 copy of Energy Attack Trunks. Its first effect is pretty irrelevant, but its second effect is actually quite good. Just having a 2-drop 15k can be relevant in some scenarios, but for the most part I'm just using this as an extra name to balance out the ratios between Trunkses and Gotenks, because I want to keep them more or less at the same. Unfortunately, I don't have more Unyielding Spirit Trunkses. If this card was like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4, I would definitely play as many copies of this card as I could over this, but just to keep things balanced, I feel like this is a nice little spicy Trunks to put in your deck. Moving on to the Gotenkses, we have Quick Thinking Gotenks. This card's absolutely nuts. 3-drop 15k critical. You're never going to be summoning it for 3k, but you're always going to Union Fusion it with 2 blue energy, which is pretty nice and pretty easy to get set up on. And then when you play this card with Union, you can draw 2 cards. Then when this card attacks, you draw cards. So not only do you get that immediate not only do you get to like replace the cards in your hand that you used to make this, you also get to draw a card when you swing with this. And as long as this card stays on the field, you're just going to be getting more and more advantage over time. So Quick Thinking Gotenks is my favorite Gotenks card in the deck right now. Then we have the 4 Raging Energy Blast Sun Gotenks, the classic, the good old Raging Energy Blast. This card just, it was really slept on for like a little bit in so far, and then people started realizing how good this card was and started making whole decks around it, and those decks just got even better. I remember on Reddit there was this person that kept pushing this idea of the mini Saiyans that used the Raging Energy Blast Sun Gotenks, and that deck was absolutely amazing, but it used Scrambling the Solid Gotenk, which is now banned, but you can still play the classic Raging Energy Blast Gotenks, and this guy's just so good because not only do you get to untap 2 energy, but you also get to add a Goten and a Trunks Youth from your deck to your hand, so you can essentially, like, you have a little toolbox of cards that you can add with just this one Gotenks. And then finally for the blue Gotenks is we have the Rampage Super Saiyan Sun Gotenks. Absolutely amazing. The burst 5 is a little bit over the top, but you know, it's nice and all because it helps the setup for things like the Shenron. So like if we mill like some of the key barrages, or like what else can we mill? Maybe like really it's just the little chibi Gotenkses and Trunkses that, like, if we mill we can bring them back with Shenron. but you know the ability to just bounce cards from on the field to your opponent's hand with 20 power less is pretty good, and the fact this card has barrier and double strike makes it pretty tough to get rid of. And you only have to burst when you play this card, so it's not like an attack burst where every time you attack you have to burst 5. No, it's just the one you play you mill 5, which is okay. Moving on to the green package, and now the reason I chose to play the green package over the red package is just because Psyched Up Gotenks, in my opinion, is a better card than the Ghost Attack Gotenkses, because the Ghost Attack Gotenkses are Evolve Gotenkses and not Fusion Gotenkses, so you have to have a Gotenks on the field to play it. Whereas with the Psyched Up Gotenks, you just Fusion Summon it, bring it out, and it does its thing. So I would rather like have a Gotenks that I can make much easier than just like having to protect a Gotenks on the field to then make it better, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Anyway, starting off with the green cards, we have the Sun Gotenk Family of Justice. This card is absolutely amazing. One of the good old tech green cards, just you combo with this, you get to KO something, does 3 or less. Pretty good in my opinion. It's a Gotenk 10 power, which is just amazing because it synergizes with our whole deck. Then we have the three copies of each Unified Spirit, Trunks, and Goten. These guys are pretty okay. They have their ups and downs. Goten is a little bit better just because it searches for the Trunks, and then the Trunks is pretty okay because it can KO something that's 3 or less if you reveal a Goten in your hand, and it can just be any Goten. The only downside to these cards is that like they bounce. Well, no, you can use the effects to bounce them, which is good, but like the cards, in my opinion, are just a little bit too slow, because it's they are 3 costs. Even though you can play them with just like the 1 green energy, like specified, I just don't think the cards are like good enough. So a lot of times I'll just either use them to make my other Gotenkses as like my fusion materials, or I'll just use them as green energy to charge up for my Psyched Up Gotenkses. Then we have the Infernal Villainy Cell. This card is essentially like a super combo that costs 1 energy, which is pretty nice. It's kind of like the starter deck Goku. It's pretty much the same thing, but if you ever have to play this, the card has critical, which is pretty nice. Other than that, it's just a nice little green card that you can play in your deck. It can act as a nice little filler energy. You can use it to combo and draw more cards. It's just a nice overall utility card. For my one spicy Gotenks card, I chose Super Saiyan Gotenks. It's an evolve card, but you really only like use this in emergency situations, or like if you're just trying to style in your opponent. The card isn't bad, but it's definitely not a Psyched Up Gotenks. The cool thing about it is like when you play it, you can untap 2 energy and draw a card. But other than that, you know you're not really looking to like keep this on the board for too long. You'll just swing into it, and then if the opponent kills it, it's whatever. You don't really get too much about it. Finally, one of the better Gotenkses in the deck is Psyched Up Gotenks. This guy's absolutely amazing. And when you play this, if you have a Goten in your drop area and a Trunks in your drop area, if you have a Goten, you draw 2 cards. If you have a Trunks Youth, you could just KO any card your opponent controls, which is absolutely amazing. Just being able to KO things with no specified cost. You only have to like really deal with barrier, but like it doesn't need to be a specific cost, or it doesn't need to have a specific power. You can just literally KO anything. So yeah, anyway, that pretty much wraps up the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a pretty nice, fun deck to play. It has lots of tempo. It spams out all these like cool cards, and you get to make fusion plays, and you also get to just draw a bunch of cards. And it's definitely one of the cooler decks to like introduce people to the game with. The deck is also pretty good on your pocket. It's not expensive. Most of these cards can be bought out for literally cents, and you'll just have a good time playing this deck, in my opinion. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.